Welcome to my channel and to a special new build. This is going to be all about the glorious Ferguson TE-20. Yes, a tractor. But not just like any other tractors. This was a very special one that helped introduce widespread mechanization in agriculture. Allow me to give you a couple of historical information about it before we start. It was produced for 10 years between 1946 and 1956. But while it was already in production in the US during the Second World War, thanks to an agreement with Ford, after the war, Ferguson managed to move the production to the UK. And then, the Ferguson Tractor England 20 horsepower, or TE-20, was born. Another little tidbit that will be relevant at a later stage of the build is that it also popularized the invention of the hydraulic three-point hitch system, patented by Harry Ferguson himself, which became an international standard for tractors and remained to this day. The Ferguson, or as it was also called in France, Petit Gris, had a lot of different variants and many of them are still in use and sold on the market. I found plenty of photos which will be used as a reference when I will get into the weathering of this baby. I had a bit of a head start on this project, so I went ahead and cleared out the sprues and filed most of the stuff. I also grouped them by type to help me with the build process. So far, so good. In general, the sprues had very good molds, very little cases of sink marks, no flashing at all, and in general good scaling and details. A few things that I noticed off the bat was that the lights that you can optionally install had no glass, instead had a decal, and I think I will likely avoid them altogether. Another small thing I noticed was that some thin bits were too fragile and resulting into being broken easily. Nothing that cannot be solved with some magic. And I got to a point where I'm actually going through the main engine. And I'm assembling the rear wheel. Now, this is interesting. So, let me show you the instructions here. So, what it says here is that the wheel shouldn't be like glued. Okay, I think this is the disc brake. I would assume so. Then it goes inside of shaft. The shaft doesn't need to be glued, and then it goes onto that part, the external cover of the disc brake. It's glued on top, I suppose, on the bolt that is outside, and then it goes into. Let me take this, and then it goes on top this little bit. So as you can see, this is the shaft. This is the shaft with the top of the disc brake that spins. We have it here already with the shaft encapsulated. This bit here is spinning. You go for this bit, which is a part that goes on top. So this one goes on top. It should be linking here. I hope there is enough clearance to do that. It should go basically closing that on top with this that goes, as you can see, has the bolts here that match, so this doesn't spin. It has the matching bit that goes closes like that, and theoretically it should allow the wheel to spin. Now this is mental. Other things I wanted to show is that this is the original wheel, and this is the wheel that I started to weather, and I hope you can see it well. It now is nice and reduced to this is the original one, as you can see both how they are looking, the differences. Let me swap them around so maybe it's easier. That's you. There you go. There you go. You can do it. Yes. As I was about to glue the right axle to the body, the brake line, I suppose that was the brake line, snapped in half. This was one of those delicate ones that came already broken on the sprue, and I had it previously glued. Once again, nothing that some more glue won't solve. as I managed to get the whole rear axle glued, including sorting out the mishap with the brake line, I am wondering if the whole axle is actually quite aligned. This is something I should have dry fitted earlier, and if I were to do it again, I will probably build the two rear axles and wait to glue them at the same time to get them as straight as possible. You live, you learn. Next step. While I'm quite proud of having put together this seemingly overly complicated drivetrain without messing it up, I want to prepare the engine block for some detailing I will likely do at a later stage, which is about drilling the spark plug and the distributor. I will be using some detail up black cable that I got from Tamiya, which is I think 0.6mm in diameter. Happy with the spark plugs? Now it's time to get the distributor sorted. This comes as a separate piece, as it might be easier to paint it. Before we move into the final assembly, I want to get through all the remaining bits and prime them first. As I'm speeding through the process, some notes. I am using some light grey primer from Steel Blisters that I am realizing I'm running out of and I need to stock up on. It does not need any thinning and it's ready for spraying. From my perspective, I find it on par with the Tamiya primer that comes on a can, which I consider one of the best primers available. Well, look at this. So we had the beautiful poll that I did on Instagram, and asked a few more people. Everybody was convinced of all of these. Well, actually, it was more colors that I had the opportunity to test. So we had 53 neutral gray, 22 primary gray, H61 EJN gray. No, this doesn't make any sense. X22 RLM, which does not like. Look at this. This is gray. This is not gray. This is green. This can be, yeah. This is like more a grayish. Like a grayish, if you compare it to the neutral gray, like the difference is stark to the primary gray. Yeah, it's hard to see because it's not gloss. But anyway, so we have these ones. The final ones have been X75, which is dark sea gray, the XF22 light gray, and the C337, which is this beauty, Mr. Color, grayish blue, which is called, which is a US Navy aircraft color. I think it's the closest we can get to that. This needs to be cleaned. Who cares? A bit of mess here, don't worry. So at the moment now we have managed to do all of that. I'm happy as hell, and this can go in the archive. So a few things done. This looks so lovely, so lovely. Yeah, so I'm gonna start assembling all of this. I'm gonna probably skip it over. I don't know if that makes any sense. There are a few details that I need to paint, like this one should be copper. I need probably also to do some weathering already. Probably I need to decide as I'm doing the assembly. This will some bits needs to be painted a different color, but this is the main engine block with the back part. This stuff doesn't need to be colored because it's going to be attached to this in this way. This way. It doesn't need to be painted too much. Even here I left it pretty clear, and I think that's about it. So now I am getting ready to assemble finally. Couple of things actually. So I have the main bits, intake. No, actually this is exhaust. Yeah, this is a weird one. So it's both intakes and exhaust. It mounts on this side with, as you can see, this one. The exhaust part goes on top here. In a very weird way, it gets locked in like that, and here's the exhaust pipe. So the exhaust fumes comes from the front, it looks like, and this is the intake for each cylinder. These are spark plugs, all drilled and all good. I need probably to do a little bit of cleaning there. Managed to mount the front grille. It's a little bit of cleaning with the that thing, but this is all good, so I'm quite actually happy with how it turned out. Now the problem here is that so this which is, as I said, the air intake will have to be weathered. I saw like it's usually metal or painted the same color. I'll probably do a quick, because it gets ideally this shouldn't get hot. The part that gets really hot is probably this one. I'm assuming there's a little bit of discoloration that will happen on that. On this side there is the carburetor. So like see this is how it should all be put together. So, and then down here, whoops, yeah. So this bit, this is the air intake filter, carburetor, and yeah, I suppose that there's gonna be a feeding line for, yeah, the feeding line is that it looks like it's sitting on the top for the gasoline, because there's a gas, like the gas tank is up there and is sitting right here. There's a filter for the gas tank. This is like partially copper, so on the side this copper is actually transparent, but it's not gonna be something that I'll be able to do. Doesn't matter. So I will have to paint this in a way that works. Then once this is done, plus this likely, I will need to move over this. So this is the major pain point that I'm having, because I had to sand it because it was touching on this side. So I had to do something about this. It's currently is not working exactly as expected. From the instructions, to be honest, this was meant to be going all the way down here. See, there's a small, if you see here at the end there is a small pin. That pin should have gone. If you look here, you have holes where anything can go, and ideally you have the bolts on the other side, and this bolt should go over this one. I find the design of this, the implementation and the engineering of this bit not exactly as I would like it to be. Regardless, it's I have to live with this, I guess. Also because they tell you, oh, the instruction, they tell you to put this together, which is this bit here. As you see, it's made of 3 bits. It's made of this over here, this here, and this one down here. So once you have assembled it, ideally this should go through this up to here, which is rather impossible. So I'm half tempted to actually sand this away and actually try to push it as much as possible. The thing is that there isn't really not much space down here. I don't know if I'm able to show it. So yeah, there you go. So if you see here, this part is really tight, and I had to sand it over in order to be able to have that little bit of game for the suspensions. Well, they're not really suspensions, but it gives you the idea. Anyway, this was fun. So I'm gonna have to deal with that. I already glued the front wheels. These are really just easy, pop and go. So these are just pop and go, and there's not a big issue to fit them in. We'll probably need to put some coat to make sure that it doesn't get any discoloration before I actually do the weathering. On the other way around, in reality, it doesn't matter, to be totally frank with you. Once I have the main color, the weathering, at the end, the semi-gloss coat will go over that, and no problem whatsoever. I will do also some chipping on this heavy rusting at the bottom. This also is another big issue, because when this goes here, so I just noticed that once it latches inside, so it doesn't move, this is suggested to be done at the end. This will never be done, so it seems like they expect you to get this on and glue it as you're putting it together. So what I'm probably going to be doing, probably likely remove the tip and drill it in with either a metal piece, metal rod, or something like that. Right, so let's get going. In this last use of the booth, I will finalize the small parts that make up the front axle, steering rods, the dashboard with the battery, the exhaust and intake, the saddle and the steering wheel. Almost all of them will be done with the dark grey you already seen, while I will have the exhaust painted in brown to facilitate the rust effects that I will apply later, and the steering wheel and battery will be done instead in black. We finally reached the end of this first part. Thank you so much for getting to this point. And if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe, so you can get notified about the upcoming video and will help me understand whether this is worth doing. In the next part, I will start to get into the details, and more than anything, I am very excited and looking forward to the weathering of the main block and transmission before getting anything else on top. See you next time.